Welcome everyone to Ladder Daily Digest. I'm going to do a show because I've noticed recently that Maven has put out some of her new content, and I thought it'd be cool to share it with people and try to get some views. And I have to turn off my phone so it doesn't go on. So I thought I would start off by sharing. I can share my screen real quick, and So anyhow, let me see if I can present the screen, share screen, and everybody's going away now. Doing this by myself, so I don't know for sure if it'll work, but here it goes.
Moms, despite the fact that many women seeking abortions already are mothers or do want to be mothers or will become mothers someday. The fact of the matter is, or I guess this is where the hypocrisy comes in, is that pro-lifers also do not want to take accountability for their actions, namely their policies. When women die, they want to say that's not from pro-life policies, that's incompetent medical doctors, even though we're putting them in a place where the other side of performing a life-saving procedure is a felony that can lose them their license and their way to make a living. All right. And also the hospitals, not to leave admin out of it, and legal and all of this kind of stuff. It's all incompetent admin. It's incompetent hospitals. It's definitely not our policy that created this situation. Same with rape victims and incest victims being forced to give birth at very young ages, to the detriment, obviously, of their health, mental health, physical health, their fertility. All of these consequences that are happening that would not be the case if abortion access was free and unrestricted. They don't want to. That's not our fault. That's not our fault. That's the police department. That's their fault because they didn't, whatever hoops they made somebody jump through and not get to in time in order to get a 13-year-old an abortion from a rapist. That's not me. That's not us. That it is you. It is you. If you are pro-life and you have voted for pro-life policies and pro-life politicians, you are responsible for every raped child giving birth to a child. You are responsible for every uptick in domestic violence and homicides of pregnant women, which are already higher than women on average. You are responsible for the deaths of mothers in ERs or at home or whatever the case may be. You are responsible, and it's time for you to start taking accountability for that, especially since you're the one wanting us to take accountability, for our choices, which, by the way, fatal pregnancies are not a choice. Rape is not a choice. The whole choice thing is really complicated for pro-lifers, consent and all that. They really don't understand it. So yeah, take accountability, guys. You are causing these problems.
You can try it. Okay, so there is Maven's first post on her Dear Pro-Life Dad channel. I wish I had a co-host so that we could talk about this, at least while I'm trying to figure out all the buttons to push. Welcoming some people on the show here. Thank you, Monkey. Catherine Class. Diamond Dave might come soon. But anyway, I thought I would share with people what Maven has and try to go visit her channel. I think I have the link underneath to her channel and to her videos. And so I'm going to see if I can get her second one.
Could be first-time mom who's pregnant. One of the things my pro-life dad said in one of the last conversations that I had with him, and not because he's dead, but because I cut him off. He's dead to me, I guess we'll say that, was that looking at the consequences of pregnancy, even for wanted pregnancy, is just the chance that something could go wrong and it could end a woman's life, which he very well knew because this conversation happened within a year of an extended family member whose funeral we attended, of a 23-year-old would-be first-time mom whose pregnancy killed her. So this is not just like an out there, kind of a idea that, yeah, sometimes some women that we don't know out there can pass away because of complications of pregnancy. No, this is close to home. That my father sat through this, right? He sat through this funeral, which at least for me, was one of the most tragic ones I've ever been to, because it was the first one that wasn't for somebody at the end of their natural lives, but someone very young trying to bring a new life into the world, and just how quickly that ended in tragedy. So anyway, this thing that my dad said was that basically if women aren't willing to accept the small chance of death, which for a pregnancy, which most already are, most women do know that these things can happen, but that doesn't mean that we should be okay with increasing that risk unnecessarily, that we should be okay with the idea of jumping through hoops or going through red tape to get life-saving treatment, hopefully in time, because women don't always have that. Like the funeral of the woman that we went to, her pregnancy killed her very quickly. There was not time enough to save her, even if what had happened at a hospital. That was too quickly. But that's not the case for every woman. There's women who, and we are seeing this now, who are experiencing complications, and they do have a window of time. But when you put obstacles in the way and they have to get through that, you are killing women unnecessarily who would not be. But anyway, so here's my dad's view on that. This is, if you don't want that to happen, all right, we should be okay with abortion bans. We should be okay that the fact that there's already a risk of death anyway, so why not just increase it? And if we don't like that, just not have sex. And that's really astounding to me. Again, it's always not just pro-lifers, but especially pro-life men, when they have this argument that women, like, not wanting to be pregnant, should just never have sex, because they are really missing a key component of that, which is themselves. And pro-life men are conservative men. They feel entitled to sex. They view women as sexual objects, whether it's not just the women on the street or whatever, but their own wives. Like, those are their own personal sex objects that they're entitled to. So just like knowing how traditional conservative men feel so entitled to sex, and not just entitled, but get really enraged if it's withheld from them. I mean, just look at like male comedians. How much is like with sex being withheld, like making it it's like a part of the culture and jokes and all of these things. Anyway, and my dad especially, okay, because here's what I know about my dad, and this just blows like his hypocrisy. Oh, and this just blows his hypocrisy just completely out of the water. Okay, all right, my parents had 2 kids. All right, I was the first. They had a girl, they had a boy, and for my dad, that was good. Got one of each. We're done. We're okay. Well, my mom wanted another kid. She wanted another kid, but my dad didn't. And of course, the onus was on her for the birth control to not have the kid that my dad didn't want, that she actually did want. Anyway, my mom eventually got to this point where she said, you know what? I want another kid. I'm going off birth control. So if you don't want another kid, don't touch me. And if my dad was not a complete and utter pro-life hypocrite, as they all are, every single one of them, then he should have been like, okay, that's fine. And my dad should not have ever had sex again after the age of 30, or if not sooner. My dad should have been totally okay living a completely celibate life from that moment on. Guess how long it took us to get my youngest brother from this declaration of my mother's? Yeah, less than a fucking year. Absolutely. And that, like, to birth. Okay, so like not even just like conception within a year. Obviously my dad folded like a house of cards within a couple months. So yeah, I got my youngest brother by my dad's choice, because he chose to have sex consensually. But just wow, would you just know, like, my dad did not want kids, and he could only make it a couple months without sex, yet to have the gall, the absolute audacity to say that a woman who should not be willing to risk death, no matter how small the chances are, should just never have sex again, is just astounding. And that's why I hate my dad and I cut him out of my life and I don't want him to be a part of it. And I don't think he deserves to do it. And no dad does who thinks this way about women, because that's how they think about their daughters as well. And that's just it for me.
So anyway, that's Maven's views. If anybody has anything they'd like to say regarding that, join the show. I hope I have it showing the link. I hope people can click on it. I think you should click on the link and join. I think I need to remove this, and then I'm back here. So there's one other video that's on Maven's channel, and if nobody wants to come on, Maven is not here right now. I am live streaming it to her Amazing Maven channel, and I think I just took it off of it, and because I'm just a rookie trying to do this. But if no one comes on, then I will say goodbye and watch Maven's channel. It's food for thought. It's her opinions about things. She is strong-willed about it, and I'm glad that she was able to get some things, out there and start her channel and get some things going. The election is a couple days away. She wants to, everyone, I'm sure, to vote, and she wants to give people a viewpoint and hope that it will change some people's minds. I know, as Risto says, not all people are against abortion, who are against abortion are hypocrites and evil. And I will agree with that. But it would be nice to come on and say exactly why. I want to talk to Risto someday. And so, yes, we appreciate her passion. And are you able to come on, Risto, or not? Are you able to just turn on, copy and paste the StreamYard? And like I say, I agree with you, but I also agree with Maven and her points, and I understand what her points are. And otherwise, if no one else is willing to come on and talk about the issue, I'll probably end this in just a minute. But this will still, keep on being available for people to check out. And check in the description below is a link to Maven's channel. I'm hoping she gets more views. She has a viewpoint that is a little bit strong-willed. She has some personal experience. Pregnancies are a risk. They're always a risk. And her point of view is that if a woman is pregnant, the woman is the only one that should have the right to her own medical decisions, her own body, her bodily autonomy, or things like that. And thanks a lot, Risto. Sometime we'll get you on and say something about it. But anyway, have a good rest of the year. Thanks, everybody. If you could like and subscribe, we'll see if at some point we can do an interview and get more people on, get maybe a panel going. That would be good. Catherine has a last little thing. I think being against abortion doesn't make one a hypocrite. I think forcing that opinion on others via laws is where the problem comes in and where hypocrisy shows up. So yes, that is, a thing. It took me a long time. I was 63 years old before I came around to thinking that there could be a slippery slope here, right? Like if it's so important to have the baby, we'll say the pregnancy come to full term, the potential life to be born, every man's, sperm is potential life. And so maybe that should be regulated someday. I don't know. Maybe that if that was a threat of regulation, maybe men would understand Maven's point a little bit more. I don't know. And I think what it is I was consider myself a loving person, and I didn't favor blanket abortions. I thought that, well, maybe someday the person that comes out from the abortion might cure a cancer that I have or something like that. And then my son said, well, that person also could become the next Hitler as well. And so there are lots of times where we make choices, make decisions. Men, pull out. People abstain. People do birth control. People do other things. There are pills available now. We live in modern technology. There's something in the Bible that talks about how, not eating pork, and it was probably a good idea 2,000, 3,000 years ago. But now we have science and technology that allows for a healthy, safe pork to be eaten. And so, we just go with that. And well, thank you, Catherine. Yes, it takes a little while, but it takes, patience and love and understanding. And, that message needs to be crafted at some point. And I think a panel is one way to do it. I know that Risto was on a panel where Maven appeared in the spring, and Maven felt ganged up on. And yeah, I'm not really a good enough, arguer to be on a panel or something. I can help maybe moderate, maybe pass the microphone to other people, but it's hard for me, for the way my brain works, to debate or things like that. All I know is that I value Maven's opinion, and I value Risto's opinion. I value that, right? And I know, Risto, I understand how you were polite, and I understand how the other guy that was drinking, that he feels that feminists are, ganged up on him at some point in his past, and now he's against feminism and if it's like, total writing off people, what do you call that? Like not willing to listen and discuss. And so anyhow, yes, it would be, I understand. And Risto, I think you came up with a suggestion that what if a woman is 9 months pregnant and she just decides that she wants to go to Mexico and she doesn't want to be pregnant anymore. And I think in the comments, I said that is sexist, it's misogynistic. And what it was you didn't understand how that could be. You just thought it was just a hypothetical. And the hypothetical is, what if someone named Risto want to just kill all the babies in the world? If that was a hypothetical, that would make all Ristos sort of seem not very loving to babies, we'll say. And so it would make him seem like a killer, make him seem crazy, and that would be a hate on Risto, right? But so suggesting that someone would just all of a sudden change her opinion after going through 9, 8.5, whatever months of pregnancy, probably you go through that long of a pregnancy, you want to have a child, you want to be a mother, and it's just an example that just doesn't seem like it's a thought. But maybe if for whatever reason, if there was not a specific reason given, right? I looked up some stats and I saw that of late term of abortions, there's a very low percent that aren't based on some risk. Sorry, Risto. I wasn't trying to make you look bad. And I know you wouldn't want to do that to anybody, but I'm here by myself and I just not that great of a podcaster. But anyhow, the thing that makes it misogynistic is it shows like that women could be stupid enough to want to do that or something like that. Now, everybody's stupid enough to do stupid things of all sexes, of all ages, of all groups. People do stupid things all the time, right? But we don't we don't make laws based on, you know, this such a far outlier. You know, we assume that people are civil, they're already obeying some laws. We don't need to have a law for every single thing, right? And in a way, you know, that is an example of why, you know, Maven sees things her way and why Risto sees things his way. And, you know, I'm sure there's a way that pro-lifers can come to understand what pro-choicers are going through. I feel like I understand both sides of the arguments. I have come to my own opinion that we are not creations of any higher power. We are just sort of a fluke. We are reproducing cells that just happen to have some sort of form of consciousness. We have created societies and we've created laws, and those laws can be changed. They could be different laws in every part. Jared Higdon says, I'm a pro-life man. I do not feel entitled to sex. Problem is that if I said this to Maven, she'd inform me why I actually do feel entitled to sex. And I understand, you know, Jared as well. And I suppose if you wanted to come on, Jared, and talk about why you are pro-life, if you're able to see, up in the comments, I had a link. If I need to put it again, you know, and you can come on and say, if you're able to, say why you're pro-life, right? Because, you know, people die all over the world, and that means their life ends for all kinds of different reasons, right? And we don't vote on a lot of those things. You know, sometimes it's other countries' laws, it's other situations in life. Sometimes people starve to death. It could be from their choices, but it could be that there's not enough available resources for them. And so anyway, back to the Backyard Professors, Maven's new channel. Hooray. She's got some content out there. Ladder Daily Digest exists to help smaller channels, you know, get more views. The link isn't working. Okay, so if I click invite, and I probably had the wrong link. So let me click paste and see if that works now. So hopefully somebody can hop on. I will get rid of the sharing of Maven's thing. If you want to go to Maven's channel and see, there's one other video she has that she put out either yesterday or the day before. I just never know. Oh, Risto's able to join. Hi, Risto.
Hey.
It's been a while since I've seen you on a screen, but
yeah, and I don't think we've ever
first time you've seen me.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that you were raised Catholic and maybe currently practice, or I can't remember. You explain what your religious position is.
Can you hear me?
There's a religious position at all?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. So I was raised Nazarene. Are you familiar with them?
Only that, is that the one in like Australia or something, or is that an American thing?
Mostly American.
Okay.
They're kind of like an offshoot of of Methodism.
So it's Christianity. It's a different brand of Christianity, just like I can't even think now because I don't study religion very much anymore. But like you got the First Baptist and the Second Baptist and the Third Baptist. They're all different Baptists, but there are things that are called like Nazarene that's related to Methodism, or there could be something else that's related to Calvinism. You know, the Quakers and Shakers, I don't know where they have their roots, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Nazarene church started in the early 1900s. And so it was kind of a mix of, I think, some Pentecostal churches and with some Methodist or Wesleyan background came together. So that's kind of my background. I'm not a part of that church anymore.
Okay. And
So
do you still believe in a higher power or a specific God, like a certain Bible God?
yeah.
And so, what do you think about like Dan McClellan saying that everybody negotiates the meaning of the scriptures?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for some people, some groups, I think you kind of just take what you're taught. So I'm not sure how much negotiation you do in that case.
And
But
there could
maybe,
be another definition of negotiation that he's
yeah.
talking about. We could say interpretation, and I don't know why interpretation wouldn't be the same thing.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I would agree
And
with
I
that.
even think every Mormon has a different version of Mormonism.
Yeah, and I've encountered that.
Because there's space for it, right? Either Joseph was a flawed man and he mistakenly took God's instructions to do polygamy, or he just did polygamy thinking that anything that came to his mind was from God. And so he was sinning when he did that. But all the other stuff is true. But maybe not all the other stuff is true. Maybe not the bank, maybe not something else. But there's 100 different things. I think I did the math that if there are 80 things that you could say yes or no to, the odds that two people in the current world's 8 billion population would have the same yeses and nos as you is almost impossible. It's equal to 0. And there's more than 80 different things that have happened in Mormon history or Mormon theology or things like that. And so I think it was, up in the trillions. You'd have to have a trillions of population in order to get like two people thinking the same thing.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. That's an interesting way to think about what decisions you make and how they form you.
But like we can drive a car that doesn't have the cigarette lighter working, and it still does the car things we want. So we can have a civilization, we can have laws that for most people get us to where we want to go, right?
Yep.
And so
So
what is
go
it
ahead.
that makes you more pro-life? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, it's been kind of a journey for me. I would say initially my view just came from how I was raised, which was I was taught that that abortion was bad. And so then that was as complicated as
Default.
that's as complicated as my view was. And then I worked in a medical institution in the cardiology department when I was younger. And we had patients who came in who had congenital heart issues. And some of these people didn't find out until they were older in life. And some of them were pregnant mothers who I think found out around the time that they were pregnant.
So what does that stress the heart more so that it finally shows up on the charts and graphs?
Yeah, I'm not sure how they figured it out. It could have been symptomatic.
Yeah, maybe they faint
Yeah.
when not every pregnant woman faints or something, or they get dizzy more than most, and they say, "How come I'm getting dizzy?" And then they hook them up to a machine. What kind of machine is it?
An echocardiogram. I mean, it depends on what test you're running, but
right, echocardiogram. Okay, we just were doing a puzzle today, and it wanted ECG instead of EKG.
Okay,
and I was
yeah,
like, ECG.
both are used.
And what it was is that EKG is the German initials for electrocardiogram. And all I can think is maybe the Germans put out a bunch of machines and they called them all EKG machines and sent them to America, 100 years ago when they first were coming out, whatever.
Yeah, or they invented it. I'm not sure what the
that's what I'm saying. They invented it or made it, right, or licensed it to be, licensed it technology, right? All the different things. And so they would come in with these heart defects, and what would you observe?
Well, so I wasn't a clinician. I just I would help room the patients, and so that's when I kind of first had firsthand contact with the medical side of maybe the life at the mother was at risk or or there was some sort of issue between the pregnancy and her heart. And then I learned that our department would refer some patients on for abortions, or at least to have a consult about it. So that kind of forced me to have to think about it in a deeper way than I had. So I started to think about it a little bit then, and that hospital had it was kind of two hospitals that worked together. It was actually the Mayo Clinic, but they worked in tandem with another hospital that was run and founded by Catholic nuns. So, and they're kind of known for being opposed to abortion. So I was just curious how that worked, that, they work together, but one of the groups is known for being opposed to abortion. But the place where I work, the Mayo Clinic, um, I think they're totally fine with abortion. Um, I don't think they had any issues. So I set up a meeting to talk with one of the Catholic nuns, one of the sisters, to find out like how she thought through that. How does she reconcile that working with this institution that's more okay with it? And so again, that was kind of like a time when I started to think more about it and whether I was okay with what was going on. But so I thought about it a little bit. I'm not sure I had a really robust position on what we were doing in our department. I think I understood why, like I was emotionally sympathetic to, yeah, having an abortion to save the life of the mom. That made sense to me. And I was emotionally sympathetic to that. Um, Elective, I would say at that point, I wasn't, not that I was thinking about it a lot because I was thinking about the cardiology thing. And then I think the second time when I actually really started to dig into it more, and I'm still in this process myself, is with the overturning of Roe. Um, to be honest, like, so I'm a father of four, I'm busy like raising my family and living life. It's not like I was spending a lot of time with my head in that issue. And I wasn't working in the medical field anymore.
And what state do you live in?
I live in Minnesota.
Okay. I've heard of it.
Yep. And so when Roe was overturned, I started thinking, I was like, I'd like to look into it a little bit more and figure out what I think about this. And from a Christian perspective as well, because I think I had heard some people say that, well, there's nowhere in the Bible that restricts abortion. And in fact, there may be some passages that are okay with it. So that was kind of news to me. So I wanted to hear like the best reasons from a pro-choice side, and then to hear different people interacting between like pro-choice and anti-abortion, and hear the people talk together, and hopefully hear. I didn't want to start with a conclusion that I couldn't change. Yep, St. Mary's is in Rochester. Yep. But I wanted to hear what both sides were thinking. And again, not just, there's a lot of like arguing about it online, and not all the debates are actually very good. So I wanted to hear like people who were listening and reasonable and had the best thoughts on both sides. So I kind of started that process over the course of a few months back when Roe was overturned. And I that's when my thinking, to be honest, that process moved me, I think, actually more against abortion than I was. But like I said, it's not like that process is over for me. Like I'm open um, to changing my mind on the topic for sure. But that's, I mean, you kind of asked my story. That's like a little bit just kind of like
Yeah.
how that process took place.
I mean, there are people that are vegans because they are, in a way, are pro-life for animals, right? They think that the animals' life are sacred. And when I, was Mormon, the Bible says that everything on the earth is for us. So why not eat animals, right? No big deal. And but I'm fine with people that want to be vegan. I don't want to force anybody to eat meat or anything like that. I think they'd be maybe a little happier overall, And so, like I say, once, and then there was another argument about, and I think I mentioned it earlier, that if your neighbor needed a kidney and the government came and said, in order to preserve your neighbor's life, we need your kidney and you don't have a choice. We're just going to take it. It seems like something that people wouldn't vote for, that to just take everybody's kidneys without them having a choice, right? And so if a mother is facing a potential, even in the healthiest states of pregnancies, there's a risk, right? Even if every medical convenience was allowed, there still would be a risk. Yep. Like my wife is afraid of flying. If she was forced to get on an airplane, she would feel that somebody was forcing her to put her life at a greater risk than she would want otherwise, even if the car ride to the grocery store might be more risky, right? At least she has a choice. And at least she might say, well, the car ride, I want to go to the grocery store because I need ketchup, right? So I was willing to risk my life to get ketchup. Well, of course, that's me projecting. I would be willing to risk my life for ketchup. Hi, Jared.
Hey, Gene. How's it going?
Good. I am a fan of yours from a long time, from the time that you drank and watched conference.
Oh, yeah. We had fun doing that.
Yeah. And my wife hated it. She was just recently converted to, we'll say, more of a scientific and logical approach to life than Mormonism. But she still couldn't understand why anybody would drink or talk rudely, because I'm sure some alcohol got some rude comments out of you. But was so impressed with you and your wife's ability to speak to issues, to have thoughts and express them. And I was thinking, why the hell can't I do that? That's what I was thinking at the time.
Oh, that's more Morgan. That channel was her baby. I just kind of
you just
made stupid, crude jokes.
So a hanger on.
It doesn't take alcohol to make me say crass things.
and it doesn't take a long time of learning the truth about Mormonism to be able to say smart things, right? Either. So I hadn't maybe deconstructed for very long, and so I thought you were coming up with all these amazing, logical arguments against Mormonism or against the leadership or whatever.
See, I think one of the main things we noticed when she was doing that channel is that it feels like there's a lot of times when criticisms of the church get to be unfair, right? And it, my friends, anytime we would do a live stream, I had a couple friends who would make a drinking game out of it. And one of the things that would happen that would cause them to drink is anytime Jared defends the church. And it wasn't necessarily defending the church. It was more like me saying, well, okay, but that's a criticism, but they're not, maybe it's not all that fair of a criticism. And I think there's a lot of them, and you can see them the more time you spend in ex-Mormon spaces. We tend to maybe be a little bit unfair on the church.
Yes, I agree with you when you start, and then Mormons will especially take it personal, right? You're saying so much bad about the church, like, oh, the leaders are evil and awful and the horrible men. It's like, well, they seem like good businessmen, right? Of course, I guess Epstein seemed like a good businessman. I guess.
No, I mean, so like the example I was thinking of is that I remember I was in my really angry phase. I was like a burn it down type guy. And then somebody brought up they said that, in Utah, it's one of the highest ranked youth suicide nations or states in the nation. And it's obviously it's got to be because the church is so homophobic. And I was like, all right, yeah, let's tear this down, right? Let's burn them. Do we got our ducks in a row? Do we got all our numbers compared to everything else? Have we compared it to like deep Baptist areas of the nation where they're, I would argue, much more homophobic than the Mormon church? And I'm asking about all this stuff, and I kind of got shouted down for questioning the narrative. I wasn't even
Right.
questioning the narrative. I just wanted to have an ironclad case to burn down the church. And I got shot down for that. And it's like anything that pushes against that. Like, we need to think of other variables. Could it have been this, or this? Because that's what science is. We're trying to falsify hypotheses so that we can
Have
stick to
greater
hypotheses.
learning.
Yeah, well, we stick with
Greater
the
knowledge.
hypothesis that cannot be falsified.
Mhm.
And even just trying to do that. Anyway, that was just one of the things that I would say is maybe an unfair criticism of the church. And as soon as you push back on that at all, you're kind of like shouted down.
Right, because people will say, I have a friend that's not here today because they were gay, and I knew it was the Mormon church that caused them to commit suicide. And that is all could be right.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't mean statistically, though, like you're saying, that's the greater picture.
Yeah.
But one thing that I have said is I posted on my wall, I think in the spring of 2022, Jif peanut butter had products put out there that were making a few dozen people sick. They recalled $120 million worth of product, and there were no deaths associated with whatever the contaminant was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's corporate accountability, right?
Mm-hmm.
If one person has committed suicide because they were gay in the Mormon church, wouldn't that be a recall of some products? Wouldn't that be worth $120 million recall of products? You know, I don't know what the percentage is, you know what I mean? But so in other words, it's just like, well, that's just what God wanted. You know, he was called back early. You know, there's all these things that can be said. But anyway, Jared, how would you explain your position of being pro-life?
Oh, I would just say I think that I'm very much against killing humans.
Right.
I don't think you can kill humans without like massive justification. So there's instances like self-defense, sure.
Right. And Maven would say that a zygote or a fetus is just a potential human.
Sure, and I would ask what species it is. Like if it's not a human.
Like you would say, or you might, or I would say, I'll just say what I would say. I would say it's a human that is in the process of developing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's in that.
But sperm aren't sperm potentially humans?
They're potential humans, but a zygote is a human that is now developing.
Right. But what if it was illegal to masturbate because that would lower the birth rate overall?
Well, it's not about lowering the birth rate. It's about, killing humans, right? So
lower the number of people who get born every year.
Yeah, no, that's I'm not.
I mean, is it the total number that you need?
No, I don't really care that much about what happens to. I mean, I think we should worry about the declining birth rate, but that's not really what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about abortion, I'm talking less about birth rates and more about like it's sort of a deontological principle that I think killing a human without massive justification is wrong. And so that's like Maven likes to bring up the edge cases. Like she brings up her sister-in-law that had the ectopic pregnancy and like very tragically died. And that's sad. And she even admits like that her sister-in-law would not have died. Her sister-in-law could not have been saved by abortion because it was just such a quick thing that like nothing could have possibly happened. But I don't know, like I'm sure they're out there. I don't know any in my personal life, and I haven't met them even online, pro-life person who would say that, yeah, you can't have an abortion even if it's going to kill you.
So does, like, are there lack of government programs or things that cause people to die? Is there a lack of armed American warfare to go to countries to enforce that they have a better standard of living, to increase the number of potential humans, or to limit the number of deaths of humans? And you know what I mean? I mean, how far does that go? Like I talked about, somebody that doesn't like to eat meat, can be a vegan. And some people say, they want to outlaw meat, right, or whatever. And so, but that's like our whole society. Do you agree that our whole society is like piecemeal, ad hoc, just stuff that we've been dealing with for thousands of years, and things change over time based on either knowledge or information or control, or whoever speaks loudest or has better arguments or whatever. And so for me personally, the argument that, pro-lifers should also be in favor of government programs to feed poor children, preschool things. Hi, Heidi.
Hi.
It's nice to see you. Yes, there are 3 men talking about women's bodies because.
Hi. Sorry how I look today. I just got off work.
So where do you stand, Heidi?
Well, I feel like I personally wouldn't have had an abortion with my kids, but I also feel like it isn't up to me to decide what other people do with their body. And I look at people who, like the women who've had to go to other states because they were having a legitimate miscarriage and they ended up dying because of the miscarriage. They couldn't get medical treatment, or they just need to have a DNC, which is considered an abortion, even though you're having a miscarriage. I had 2 miscarriages before I had my 4 kids. So to me, I look at it as a medical thing when it's like the baby is not viable anyway.
So I would ask, like, why would you personally not have an abortion?
Well, because I wanted kids.
Okay.
But at the same time, I don't think it's my job to police other people's bodies.
Do you have any limits that you place on abortion personally, or where do you place, like, if you draw a line somewhere, where do you draw those?
Well, I think if it's a viable pregnancy, I don't think it should be birth control.
Why not?
Because I look at it as that's a baby that's starting to grow and can be swaddled and fed a bottle or breastfed in a few more months. But I look at as a pregnancy that's gonna be okay, then it should continue if it's not like from a rape, or it's not because your stepdad raped you, or your brother raped you, or your cousin, or what have you. That would be like the incest thing. I guess I'm still very fundamentally Mormon, even though I don't consider myself Mormon anymore. My core is there. I don't know. I feel like it shouldn't be up to men to decide what a woman does. And a woman shouldn't decide what a man does. I think it's hypocritical.
So there should be no laws against masturbation.
No.
So I guess
that monkey.
You have my vote.
So my issue with the no uterus, no opinion stance is that, like, what we're talking about here is the pro-life stance is that's a person inside the body, and you shouldn't be allowed to kill the person. So it's not, I don't know, like this is my big beef with Maven. I had that big conversation with her where she told me, no matter what I say, my core, what I want to do is control women's bodies. And I'm very much unconcerned with controlling women's bodies. Like if a woman wants to do meth, I'll tell her probably don't do that. Right. But I'm not going to stop you. And to me, you're, in my mind, what I think is that they're doing something to somebody else's body, the baby's body. And we can, like, you get into the semantics as, oh, is it a baby? But a baby is a colloquial term. It's not a stage of development. Zygote, fetus, infant, adolescent, those are stages of development. Baby is an overarching colloquialism that you apply from the moment you find out that you have a zygote in your stomach. You call it a baby. You don't say the fetus is kicking, or when a woman says the baby's kicking, nobody jumps in and says, actually, it's just a clump of cells, you know? So, I know that it's really popular to do the no uterus, no opinion thing, but I can't, it doesn't seem intellectually consistent to me, because usually when people do that, I'll just tell them, actually, I have a uterus. And most of those people just kind of got to take my word on it. And then they immediately go to, well, then you can police your own uterus, but not mine. I was like, okay, then no uterus, no opinion really didn't hold any weight then, because as soon as I told you that I have a uterus, it didn't mean that my opinion was valid. It just, moved the goalposts.
You present uteri.
Uteri, yeah.
Uteranius.
Yeah, and I think what I found, I talked about that I went searching for like the best arguments for abortion, and actually, Heidi, I think there's a lot of overlap in probably our stances from what it sounds like from what you said. But I went looking for the best arguments, and I knew that the line could be drawn in different places, and for me, just personally, like each of us has to look that up, research that ourselves, listen to what's being said. I couldn't find any great arguments for just having like elective abortions, like for you, like you said, Heidi, just as birth control.
Right.
Specifically, and I think it's helpful to talk about that line, because oftentimes people talk about life of the mother and they talk about rape, but actually they're okay with elective abortion. So I think we should talk about the elective abortion, if that's, there are some differences with those categories, I think.
Right.
I had trouble finding great arguments on the pro side. I ended up being convinced, like I said before, more and more against abortion. So I mean, I would just encourage everyone to go and listen to discussions. They don't have to be debates, discussions that are on the opposite side of what you think on this issue, and go into open-minded and try and understand, does this position make sense logically? And just to clarify, one thing is when I brought up the circumstance of a mother having abortion to go on a vacation to Mexico. Obviously, I don't debate this topic a lot online, or I would have never brought that up. It didn't land very well.
Sure. I mean, Greece, yes.
Yeah,
Mexico, no.
Right. But it was more of like a philosophical question. I don't know if you've ever heard of the trolley questions, where they have a philosophical question about if there's one person on these tracks and 6 on this, but, and you have to choose, or, they set up these situations that are difficult. It was more, I meant it to be like kind of a philosophical question to understand where Maven's boundaries were, not as I think women do that. It's like if someone asked the trolley question, you said, what? You're putting people on a trolley tracks and you're going to kill them? You're a monster. No, they're just trying to figure out how you're thinking or where your lines are.
Yeah, I am aware of those kind of hypotheticals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
My other concern.
Hypothetical.
Yeah. Well, also, one more thing. Ever since the Supreme Court overturned it, starting to be more and more states aren't allowing IVF. That's part of trying to have a baby. Isn't that supposed to be the pro-life? So I feel like it needs to go back to how it was, so that America women and men, like families, can have IVF again. They can protect the mom who's going to die because she's hemorrhaging from needing to have a DNC, so she can have kids later. I look at it as it's a healthcare thing more than a birth control thing, I guess.
Well, so what if there was a law stating that all abortions related to healthcare were okay, but all abortions related to just basically birth control or inconvenience, we're not going to do that?
I personally would support that.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Yeah. I just had this argument like directly with Maven, and my main beef with Maven is that she's insane about this. Like she doesn't view me as a person. I mean, anytime I tell her I have no interest in controlling women's bodies, I think that's a person inside you. And so I think if you want to win me over, what you got to do is convince me that A, that's actually not a person inside you, or B, in this instance, it's justifiable to kill that person inside you.
So why not then, Jared, have abortion be okay, and then it's on you to be able to counsel and to win the mother over that she shouldn't get an abortion?
Well, because it's not okay to like kill a toddler and then I don't like it's what I'm saying is
you don't really want to kill
me,
toddlers. You really want, they have to be teenagers before.
yeah. No,
So,
Yes.
what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that like
Or 23
we also have the argument that like, oh, pro-lifers don't care about the kid after he's born, which I think is false, but also it doesn't make any sense because it's actually already illegal. Like what we're talking about is killing people, right? Killing humans. And so it's already illegal to kill a toddler. So of course I'm not advocating against kill toddler laws because we don't have them. And it is legal to kill a fetus or a zygote. And that's why I'm talking about it.
Yeah, I think that gets missed in the conversation. Perhaps a good way to start a conversation about this topic would be like if I was convinced that this wasn't an innocent human in development, there's like pre-human, which we talked about with the sperm and everything. I don't think sperm and egg are actually a human yet. They're just the two halves that come together to magically make people. So it's if I didn't believe that it was an innocent human in development, then I would be totally okay. I would say, hey, that's your decision. That's your body. You go for it. I don't have any say in this. I don't want any say in this. You do what you want. I don't want to be involved with other people's healthcare. I really don't. Or if I came to believe that it was some sort of circumstance where ending the life of an innocent human was okay, then in either of those two circumstances, then I would be on board. So I think it would be helpful in the pro-choice side to try and like engage with anti-abortion people with where they're at and kind of walk through, like address those kind of two concerns. Because anti-abortion people are for women controlling their bodies and having choice. It's just those two areas where the line is like, we don't have complete choice of what
together.
I can't kill innocent human beings.
So I was also going to say, Catherine in the comments said people should not put the onus solely on women for preventing pregnancy. It's 100% possible to prevent pregnancy without abstinence or surgery. So men should be taking bodily steps to prevent. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like I do not put the onus 100% on women. Like I've been married for 10 years. We have 2 kids and we've never had a pregnancy scare because it's actually really, really easy to not get pregnant if you don't want to. Not going to go into details or anything like that, but it's not tough. Anyway, that's
one thing about pro-life also is that I don't know, there's 5 or 7 million people die of starvation every year, and probably a lot of those are young, in different developing countries or whatever. And I'm sad about that, right?
Yeah.
And if I feel like it, I might send, money to some organization or whatever. But I'm probably not going to give it much thought after that, right? And so it's like, if I don't care about those lives, why do I care about, I don't know, how many, is it 1% of the abortions are later term not medically necessary or
it's a,
whatever.
So,
it's a small percentage, but like a small percentage of millions is still a pretty large number.
Yeah.
Well,
And so
my position's not just late term. My position's from conception.
Yeah.
right.
So, and that's a lot.
Well, people, because it's more of a philosophical question than we like to say that it is. People squirm when you bring up late term abortion, and if you ask somebody like, "Are you for late term abortion?" They'll try to tell you it doesn't happen very often. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but if it did, like, it's my body, my choice. Therefore, I ought to be able to get an elective 9-month abortion if I want. And you
No.
corner them there, and they really squirm. And honestly, all I think it is that it looks more like a human at 9 months. Like a fetus looks a lot more like a human than a zygote does. And I think it just,
Right.
the more it becomes real, the more difficult it gets.
There's a lot of dystopian futures where the government says when and where you can get pregnant or whatever, and I had a better thought than just saying that a second ago. But it has to do with I really don't care whether there's 2 million or 2.1 million new babies every year. It doesn't really affect me. Just like no matter whether it's been Bill Clinton or one of the George Bushes or John F. Kennedy in my lifetime, nothing has changed the number of potholes as I'm driving to work or school or something. Nothing that, there might be a little bit here and there about, the price of some goods or some things that we have available or something like that. But,
if you want to talk about how inefficient the government is, and yeah, I'm on your side here, buddy.
Yeah. And so I guess on one hand, except for my kids, and it's only really half of my kids, I don't care about kids anymore. I'm just saying that 2 out of my 4 kids are really good kids, whatever.
Yeah,
But
you always find favorites.
it's up to them to figure out which 2 I'm talking about if they ever watch this. But they're not really interested in things I produce anyway. But so like morals is an issue, right? There are morals that have been developed over thousands of years, right? But you agree, Jared, that 80,000 years ago our ancestors were living, right? You're not you're an ex-Mormon who believes in a 6,000-year-old
Oh no, I'm
world, right?
Yeah, I'm
so,
I'm an old Earth creationist.
An old Earth creationist.
I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. I'm an old Earth. Who knows what the hell happened, but we're here, right? And I do agree that and I'm grateful for people that want to, protect unborn infants. Well, the unborn, the unborn. And I'm also grateful for Maven for fighting for women's bodily autonomy at the same time, because I think the real thing is, the war of words, right? And if we do care about something, what should we do to its full completion, instead of saying, like Maven's dad to her, I don't want anybody to get an abortion for any reason, but if you got raped, I would send you to California.
Okay, but that's a thing I would like her to clarify, because I've heard her tell that story about 1 million times, and from the sounds of it, he's saying, if you were going to die, I would get you an abortion. And that's like most and she tries to sort of say that's him being specific to her, but I don't think that's him being specific to her. I think that's him saying, like, my line is, if the woman's life is in danger, then yes, unfortunately, tragically, we have to have an abortion. Because he sort of tried to corner me in that when I was in the chat on Mormon News Roundup, where she asked me, like, if your wife was going to die, would you get her an abortion? And I said yes. And she said, see, it's different when it's happening to you. And I said, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I am in favor of abortion if a woman's life is dying in the same way that, I don't know, if I had
And how about rape or incest?
that stuff's difficult because then you're killing a human life for
It's
a
not the
sin,
child's
for a
fault
crime
or
they didn't
whatever.
commit, you know?
Potential human's fault.
Yeah, because you could make the argument for rape or incest. You could say, let's say the mother was fine with it. Well, I'm not going to make a hypothetical again.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because I'm going to get into trouble. But it doesn't change, like, how someone was conceived doesn't change.
That's right.
Their.
What if it was immaculate conception? Would you be in favor of it?
Well, then they're totally okay. And I think how I've heard the anti-abortion argument expressed, and people don't say anti-abortion because it's not good marketing. You don't want to have anti in your title, but that's what it is, you know.
Yeah.
For life of the mother, I've heard it expressed. They're not doing an abortion per se. It's you treat the mother, and in the course of treating the mother, it may be an unintended side effect that the baby dies. You know, it's not like you're trying to kill the baby to treat the mother. You're trying to treat the mother and also save the baby if you can at the same time. But that's not always possible, is my understanding. And I'm not a doctor, so I can't totally speak to that. But that's kind of the thinking, is you're trying to treat both people in this circumstance, both
Like, I'm old, and I went to the doctor recently, and there's some things I can do. I have some sort of spinal condition, and I can either take shots the rest of my life, and maybe that will lower the chance that I'm hurt a lot when I'm 85, or for the next 20 years, I have to take shots every day, right? I would almost rather wait until I was decrepit at 85 and not have to worry about that, at all. But that's like informed consent. That's I have a choice to do something, right? And so, I guess if my spinal condition was caused by all my, masturbation, or maybe it's my blindness, I don't, either one of those things, maybe I had a choice. Maybe they were right? But I still would want somebody to come up with a medical solution someday for my problems.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they can cure your blindness without killing a baby, I'm not going to complain about it.
That's right. And so anyhow, thanks you guys for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for talking.
I do
Gene.
value your opinions, and I understand that Maven can speak harshly about things. And
she told me I'm worse than a rapist for my stance. So there's that.
Yeah. And so there are extra things going on, right, in Maven's mind that we just don't understand, right? And it's like it's not always the right message. Like if I started my conversation out by saying, Jared, you misogynistic asshole, listen to what I have to say, you probably aren't going to hear me very easily.
Well, I don't think Maven views me as the person.
Yeah.
I don't like I tried talking to, it was like talking to a wall.
Well, and to be fair, Jared, I don't think it's you. I think this is a bit symptomatic of where we are in our country. And I see this politically, is people tend to, things are very, which side you are on politically, and they tend to see the other side as dangerous and as an existential threat. Not just like, oh, you have a different perspective than me, or we just don't talk to each other anymore. We see each other as literally the enemy to be defeated. And if we start there, like you said, Gene, if we start there, we're going to have a difficult time coming to understand each other.
Right. Like
we had Heidi on here and she was great. She doesn't agree with me, but she's willing to have a conversation and not tell me that
potential things where it almost seems like a scientific jihad, right, or something. And we don't want science to be religious. We want people to stand back and think, and it is the war of words that will get us to a better society, right? And I was thinking about this, yin and yang that Chinese philosophy has had for, I don't know, 3,500 years or something like that, where there's always tension. Like if I were to solve 10 issues that my wife has with me, I'm sure she could think of 10 more once those things were figured out, right? And so even if we solved one problem on earth, there's going to be other problems that are going to come up. And just like, like no good deed goes unpunished sometimes, right? It just seems like there's good and bad, to our own individual things happens all the time. And what is it? The Buddhism philosophy that says, just try to have less, not harm. What is it called? Less
shittiness. Douchebaggery.
Yeah, well, there's a Buddhist word for shittiness and douchebaggery that's evading me right now.
Sorry, I don't know.
But yeah, it's like there's suffering, right? It's try to reduce suffering.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the goal isn't to become happy. The goal is just to reduce suffering, because no matter how much money you have, you can be unhappy, right? No matter how many babies Jared has running around, there could be 12 little boys named Jared running around his house. He still might be unhappy. In fact, he probably would be.
Need to throw some more babies in the mix.
I only say that because there was a book called Too Many Daves written by either Dr. Seuss or at least part of that series, where the mom had wished that she had named the kids other names, and they talked about all kinds of other names.
Oh, that sounds
like Bartholomew, I think, is one of them. So I would say to my wife, hey, let's name our next son Bartholomew. And she'd say, no way. And so I was giving her choice, right? There you go. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks Risto and Jared for coming on. You guys are on Porch Time often. How often does that happen?
Oh, it's every Thursday. I'm on there pretty much every week. Risto jumps on every now and then.
Jared does it religiously, and Risto does it like a good Catholic twice a year.
And thanks for talking to us, Heidi, and thanks for talking to us, Gene. It was
and I just for myself, after dealing with things, it just seems like a easier thing to have women choose how they want to deal with their own bodies. And I know there's moral judgments that people can make about, my dad used to say, it only costs a penny for birth control. You just have the woman hold it between her knees. And to me now, that's very misogynistic, right? Right?
Is it though? Like, I mean,
or you could super glue the penny to men's penises.
Sure. No, you do whatever you do.
Whatever it takes. You don't even need the penny, right? Just super glue.
My stance is don't nut inside somebody you're not comfortable impregnating. That feels pretty easy to do.
Yeah. And so while it is a problem, I in particular have come to think that the easiest solution is to have women be in charge. And I like the women and the doctor, being in charge. I don't want to tell a woman that she has to do anything. I'm married, right?
I'm pretty comfortable telling women and men that you're not allowed to kill your toddlers. So I feel the same about fetus.
Yeah. Well, and that's a distinction, a difference, something that some people are not willing to extrapolate that far one way or the other. Just like I said, semen could be considered potential life, and there should be laws around that, and I don't know. I don't want
the difference between potential life and actual life, because a zygote is actual human life distinct from the parent with its own set of DNA.
Yeah, I guess that's
semen is a gamete that comes.
Sperm is not quite life.
Yeah, it's it's organic, but
they're better swimmers than I ever was. That's all.
It's life in the same way that my blood is life, right?
And just really quick, what's weird is like there could be 1 million sperm and you still are not producing enough to impregnate your wife, right? That's still, it could be a low number. I don't know. I don't
strong one that could just punch through that egg.
Yeah, you think out of 1 million there'd be one good one. But anyway, Thanks everyone for watching. Like and subscribe. Head to Maven's channel to see what she has to say. And if you agree with her, comment. And if you disagree with her, comment in her channel. I think Flip or Jared, I saw, had some comments, and I don't know if she pays attention or.
Well, can I make one last comment?
You can.
I want to make the sales pitch for my friends on the left side politically for against abortion, for a pro-life perspective. I like that there's a concern on the left for social justice and caring about people who are marginalized, who don't have a voice, who don't have the power of being at the upper echelons and being in control of everything, and for having those people's perspectives represented. And so I would say that innocent humans in the womb, those humans in the womb, are the least voiceless and the least powerful. And a measure of society is like, how do you treat those people? The women who are dealing with the health circumstances, also, who have been raped, also, who are poor and don't know how to care for the kids, also, and our elderly and the people that pick our food. And it is a big picture of how we treat the bottom of our society. And I just see that the babies in the womb are the least powerful and voiceless in our society. So that's my pitch for people on the left, is to consider them.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody have a great rest of the year. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Gene. See ya.